Hey, Strong Girls. I'm Molly Herford, sports journalist, ultra runner, cyclist, and author, and founder of Strong Girl Publishing.
And I'm Dr. Sasha Golish, Executive Director of Yellow Running Shoes, a researcher, engineer, elite runner, and your BFF who's breaking down the science of smashing barriers in women's sports.
Think of us as the intersection of science and culture for women and girls in sport. Each week, we'll dissect the latest headlines and cutting-edge research on female athletes.
Debunk myths about girls in sport. Talk about how hormones affect performance at every age, to the latest research in sports science around mental performance, nutrition, equipment, and so much more.
And we'll spotlight badass girls and women who are rewriting the rules of the game, sometimes literally.
Expect it to be nerdy.
And occasionally TMI.
But it will always be honest.
Whether you're a strong girl yourself or you're raising one, this show is for you. Welcome to Strong Girl Talk,
where sports science meets sisterhood.
I like it. I like the pump up. This is a good starting point. All right. And with that, welcome back to Strong Girl Talk podcast, everyone. I'm Molly Herford here with my amazing co-host, fantastic friend, all of the amazing things in life, Sasha Golish. Sasha, how are you today?
I mean, I sound like a frog.
I think you sound okay, not better than last week, but like equal to last week. So here's hoping you're on the mend.
I promise I'm taking care of myself, right? I promise I'm trying to do all of the things.
Yeah, I think that all of the things is actually the issue, but we can discuss that offline.
Well, yeah, maybe not. Okay, how are you?
I'm good. I'm not gonna lie, I keep saying I'm crispy. I'm not burned out because I'm doing so many things that I love, but I'm feeling crispy around the edges only because, we had the Shred Girls launch, a week and a half ago, which actually it feels like it was like a month ago at this point because it's been such a wild 10 days. I did a couple events down in Connecticut and New Jersey and Pennsylvania and had an amazing time seeing, so many rad Shred Girls in real life. I think I talked about it last week, but at the Connecticut event, seeing a girl who got into cycling largely because of the Shred Girls books when she was 10, and she's now a coach. And yes, she's racing, and that's super cool. But like to me, the cooler part is that she's actually also coaching young girls now. And that's, I think, you know, that's where I really love seeing girls. Like I love competitive cycling. I love when we're getting more girls in that pipeline, but I also love when we're making girls and young women into lifelong cyclists, lifelong athletes. You don't need to be a professional to be an athlete. And seeing that was just so, so gratifying.
Well, and hearing about coaching, right? Like we know that, girls and women are much less likely to coach. If you're well, maybe this is book 5. We know what book 4 is, but maybe book 5 is about, right? Like finding that female coach, finding that, that woman that inspires you, right? So that you want to get into coaching. There was a whole day dedicated at the Female Athlete Conference just to coaching because we really need to get more women and girls into coaching. So, yeah, Molly, might be cheerleading another book for you here.
I had a couple girls ask about Shred Girls Book 5 already, so it's happening. I have far too many ideas for it right now, but I think it's definitely going to go more in that lifestyle and like really thinking about, what do we need to see in cycling kind of lens for sure. And actually, I'm really excited. We're going to talk at some point in the near future with Vanessa Hauswald, who is the executive director of She Sends, which is Kate Courtney's foundation. So I didn't tell you this, so this is like very exciting. She's coming on the podcast, and she and I just had a chat yesterday where we were talking about, how we need more women in coaching, especially in cycling. And she was saying they actually, in a couple of the NICA programs, have started like a mom's ride that basically helps get the moms onto bikes and like loaner bikes and everything that you need just so they can get on because like as soon as they can, like you don't need to be super next level shredding mountain biker to do NICA coaching. And this is like the same thing as that meme that's been going around, the rugby player Iona.
Oh, Alona Mahar.
Yeah, there we go. Where she said like so like men will be like, I played basketball once in my life. Of course I can coach D1 basketball. And women will be like, well, I never played in the WNBA, so therefore I can't coach my middle schoolers basketball team. I think that's, how women feel about bike coaching too. And we know that's not the case. And e-bikes have made it even easier for women to, even if they've like haven't ridden a bike in, 25 years, e-bike, boom, you're on a NICA course and just having the best time. So fingers crossed we see those numbers go up.
Oh, we'll see those numbers go up. You're doing the work.
We're doing the work. Um, and speaking of numbers going up, we have a lot of like pretty positive news coming out of like women's sport today, also numbers coming down, I guess. Um, like records going down, or records being broken, records going up, all these great things. Side note, okay, just a little self brag here. Um, Ultra Running magazine put out their May numbers, and I had the fastest 100 in North America in May for women. So that was pretty exciting.
Pretty exciting. That's like super exciting. Do not diminish your own results. Oh my gosh. I saw that and was like, I think I texted you, but I have learned that maybe, anyways, I was like wholeheartedly like just celebrating that to be like, oh my gosh, like the accomplishment in the moment was one thing. And I think you're like me, you're like, yeah, okay, did that. Don't want to gloat, don't want to have a big ego, like kind of what's next.
Well,
But
and even worse, like, should I have gone faster?
right. Oh God, yes, right? Like always, like all of the questions, but just like what an outstanding performance. And it's so I don't know if it's like the word is validating or verifying, but like it is validating when like we see these things about ourselves. And to Alona Mahara, right? The guy would be like, I mean, I was amazing before. I'm even more amazing. So you were amazing before, and now you're even more amazing, right? In fact, you're ready to coach in World Cup rugby. I think that's what the correlation there would be. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yes, that was very exciting for me. Also exciting. I'm gonna say let's get into our news here. We have a record for valuations on New York Liberty, highest valued women's sports team in history.
Um,
What?
yeah, we met the owner at the female athlete conference last week.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to hear about the Female Athlete Conference. Spoiler alert for anyone listening that didn't look at the title of this episode. We're chatting Female Athlete Conference and all of the takeaways.
But that valuation does not surprise me. Like she doesn't just value the team as a team and what it can be as a commodity, but who each of those players are individually, what they bring together collectively, and then how do you bring the fan experience into it so that it's so much bigger than just a basketball and a
Oh,
basketball team.
yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And I mean, on that note, we have, the Deloitte report coming out. Women's global sports revenues will reach 2.35 billion this year, which is a huge, like, it's an increase of like half a billion basically, year over year, which is wild.
Wild.
Um, 300% growth in global revenues. 99% of brand decision makers saying they've increased investments in women's sports. Frankly, I'd like to see that. I would like to see all of the receipts on that from the brands. But
Like there's a receipt somewhere on my desk. I was like, "Oh, like this? Like the Hudson you bought a book receipt?" Like, "Yes, congratulations on purchasing your book."
yeah, I'm like, no, I'm gonna need to see those tax returns that show that 99% of brands. Like, I want to see those brands showing that they've actually spent the money. But you know what? Even the fact that they want to lie about it is a positive sign. Um, that's right, I said it. Uh,
Call it how it is.
yeah. And I mean, do you remember a few years ago when the sports bra, like the sports bar that's all women's
Mm.
sports, first launched and everyone was like, whoa, this is revolutionary. This is, cool, but like, is it gonna work? Like, we are now seeing. Not only is it going to work, it worked. It's bringing, like, now becoming, this is what we think about when we think about starting sports bars. Like, so cool. Um, and yeah, the stat you have in here is there were six at the start of 2025. There's gonna be 2 dozen at the end of this year. Um, so cool, so exciting. Definitely makes me want to start shopping sports bars in Collingwood that are for sale. And
When do you have time to do that? Sorry? When?
well, I mean, that would be like just my office. It would make perfect sense.
How's
Uh,
DW feel about this?
DW is not a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like we'll start there.
yeah, yeah. Probably not. I have a pretty big rule against businesses that require me owning property or space. Um, because I don't like being in one place. But it is so tempting. Like, I'm sure you're like me, where you can like visualize what that would look like and how cool that would be to have that kind of space.
Well, and it's for me, it's like the ethos and the feeling of it, right? Like going into a space where it's like just this overwhelming sense of belonging and lifting each other up and like nonstop sports. I mean, I'm getting to be more active, but maybe not so much with my cold. And I'm like, I could watch sports in many televisions in all different directions and only women's sports. This is the best.
Yeah, sign me up. Speaking of which, you can't have a sports bar showing all women's sports all the time if you don't have women's sports streaming all the time, which is why I'm very excited to also see the All Women's Sports Network debuting a 24/7 streaming channel across the US, UK, Canada, Nordic markets, all on Pluto TV, which, side note, like is a free platform. So like holy moly. I'm so excited for that. I'm really, really hoping that women's cycling gets onto that platform instead of on the current platforms that it's on, because right now it's very expensive to watch, which I don't love. But I understand. Side note, like, I will forever stand on the like, yes, you should pay to stream sports that you love if that's the option.
Okay, so I'm like literally writing a paper about this right now. I'm actually like totally willing to pay if there's like a player agreement and so like player rider agreement, right? Where like some of the money goes back to the riders and like this isn't a women specific thing, right? Like this happens in men's cycle, particularly in men's cycling as well. And like, right, like let's just make the system better.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and I don't fault any of the streaming services. I get really frustrated when people complain about the price of like flow bikes and stuff. And yes, it's expensive. It sucks. Like that's frustrating. But at the same time, like they're the only ones willing to do the coverage and pay for the coverage at this point. So I can't really be that mad about it.
For how expensive it is, it's still like cheapest chips for me for the amount of cycling and running and everything else and it's actually it's not flow bikes, it's flow sports.
Okay, so yeah, Flow Sports is a fabulous investment if you like other sports.
Right.
Which like and you're on Flow Sports if you get Flow bikes. So like if you're actually, honestly, anyone who's like watching it for just the bike racing, honestly check out track,
Right.
check out gymnastics, like check out all of the other sports because it's actually kind of cool. Like why not?
I'm gonna go with very cool, but
Very
scenario.
cool. Yeah, yeah.
You want to talk about some sports highlights?
Yeah, for sure. What have you got?
Well, what was I already know what your favorite one from cycling would be from the weekend.
Actually, like, here's the real embarrassing thing. I have not caught up on any cycling from the
Oh
weekend.
my
I
God.
was telling you, I have so much life stuff going on right now. It's been a lot.
But Puck Peter say you're like cross country, you're cycle cross. She had a perfect weekend and dominated.
Hi.
Like just dominated in Leo Gang. Also didn't know until this weekend that Leo Gang was in Austria. Was always like, well, Leo Gang's in France. It's not in France. It is in fact in Austria, which is like, okay, Sasha, know your geography. But the riding this weekend was amazing. Sunday was brutal. So it was raining at the start of the women's race, and then it stopped. And so you went from like slippery, slidey mud to super tacky mud, but then super slidey mud in other areas. Like when the women finished, it was like you should just hose off.
The
But
best.
amazing riding. Um, there's a second fastest 5,000 meter ever run at the Golden Gala in Rome. That one is actually in Rome. I know that's in Italy. Really curious. So Faith Kipyegon on June 26th is going after the women's, trying to break 4 minutes for the first woman to do it in the mile. So she hasn't been racing, right? Like she's probably in some training camp, practicing her pacing, practicing in whatever shoes she might be wearing. I don't know if they're going to be legal or not. Like, is there a specific kit? Anyways, so Faith has not been racing. But Beatrice Chibet ran 14:03, and they didn't even like have pacers going at that pace. I don't even think they had the lights, right? So the new thing in track is like you have the lights going at a certain pace. So the smile on her face finishing was really awesome. The Italian record was broken at the Golden Gala by Nadia Battaclati. She is just running so well across all of the distances. It's not often that an athlete gets to break a record, a national record in their home country. So that was super cool to see.
Oh, awesome. It's funny. I was actually just having a conversation with someone last week about the trying to break 4 minutes, and we were wondering why it doesn't feel as headliney as, Breaking Two or any of that. And I'm not sure how, like, I'm not sure we came up with like any great like answers other than I think the difficult part for women with breaking four for the mile is that, to be quite honest, coming from like not a track background, I actually sort of assumed it had already been broken.
Okay.
And I think that's probably how a lot of people feel because now, you do have like high school boys that are breaking this,
Yeah.
like breaking four, right? So you kind of assume, which is a positive, I think, like in my brain, that I assume that women have like, of course, women are up to this, this as well. I think once she breaks it, then we're gonna see huge headlines and it's gonna be a big deal. And I know there's an Amazon Prime like documentary about it and everything. So I do hope it starts getting more attention. Also, like, I mean, watching it compared to watching like a, Breaking Two, where you're talking about hours, it's a 4 minute commitment. Um, I'll watch
Maybe
that.
five. Like you got to get like settled. The event happens. There's a little bit of a wrap up. Yeah. I mean, I've like been thinking about this mathematically and thinking about it through a whole host of things. So there's a pretty strong performance difference when women get to compete with men, right? Like there is a substantial like difference in performance. I think in the marathon it's 3.6% difference. And it's harder to measure as you go down in distance, mostly because women and men don't typically compete together. There's like very strict world athletic rules around that. And so, like, part of me thinks that by like performance difference alone, that this could happen. And then, like, layer in some technology stuff. We know Nike is always on the cutting edge of like where they're at with the shoes. Clothing is a thing. Like, I think in terms of aerodynamics and what they're doing, right? Like, I'm not going to go super technical here. Don't worry. You're like,
Like,
wait,
ugh, my
see,
eyes glazed over.
yeah, I'm falling asleep. Help. But I think like really some clothing that like helps the wind move around her faster, right? It's a 4 minute race. You could probably wear some longer, tighter shorts. Squish those boobs down. Although when you're competing, like how many boobs do you have anyways? But like just changing the flow of air around that. I'm
Okay, on that note, I'm gonna pause you right there and like get on my soapbox for a hot second here. I think trail running has done such a disservice to women in terms of hydration technology because I think we've pushed
right.
and cycling too, but I think running's even worse because everyone's all about the vests that have the two water bottles down the front. Tell me that does not mess with your breathing. You can't tell me that doesn't. Like I run with a pack with a hose. I'm one of the only runners that does that. I have not seen any, like at Sulphur Springs, I did not see a single other runner who is running with a pack like that. I love it because then I don't have anything compressing my chest. And I can tell the difference even when I have my phone in the front pocket of my thing
Yeah.
versus in the back. So I can't even imagine running with those two bottles like pressing into your boobs. Like it makes no sense. And the fact that like no one in trail running is really talking about that or like thinking towards more packs that have that for women and kind of pointing out like, hey, this might be more comfortable for women is appalling. And
Maybe they just don't know any better. You're
I'll
not
step
wrong.
back down.
No, no, you're not wrong. I just also want to point out Molly's not running with a garden hose in her backpack. That it is a small, like I just for people who like have no context and they're like, Molly's running with a garden hose attached to a bladder to drink. No, anyways, much smaller hose. Um,
Good context. Good context.
well, and the only way to make that pack comfortable, I'm like holding my chest right now, is to strap it down so tight. To your point that like, does this make sense? So I like using it for Nordic skiing, but in no world am I one going fast or two is it tight. But I like it because you put it under your jacket and the bottle doesn't freeze. So like
Sure.
very different. Yeah. But you're not wrong, right? And we're not running is sophisticated, but it's really not. And it's really antiquated in its thinking and around those things. And who do you think those packs were designed for?
Exactly. Like, sure, they're sized for women now, but like they're not actually like they're not changing the design for
No,
women or like
no.
thinking through the actual like, huh, does this style actually make sense for women? So I would love to see more companies, Osprey Dynapack is like my number one favorite. I would love to see more companies doing packs that actually have the bladder in the back that has a hose that comes around. Or I would love to see, some other version where we're just really thinking about, yeah, technology that's better designed for women. Please and thank you.
Okay, we'll leave that with me for a bit. Although let me get through this paper and then I'll go back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, on this gender equity topic, it brings up the French Open. So French Open wrapped up, and like quite honestly, whoever won or lost, I was going to be so happy for whoever won, and I was going to cry for whoever lost. So Ariana Sabalenka and Coco Gauff were in the final, but you know, I followed it mostly through the end. The French Open really is just like still stuck in gender equity. There is, I think it's on either the Gist or Feisty Media. The women almost made as much as the men. And I'm like, hold up, just call that out now. Like the French Open is supposed to have equal prize money. And based on that post, I'm like unsure if they do. Even more, we don't know what their appearance fees are. Often men still make more in appearance fees than women, but like the women didn't get the primetime spots. And just like the French Open was like, well, maybe people won't watch. And it's like, just put it on, just rotate. And then, yeah, the jury's still out on this, but I really think that we need, actually, Raw made a really good point. Maybe Saturday night is really prime time tennis watching. So maybe actually the women are in like the best spot for finishing. The men's match on Sunday was also just like an outstanding tennis match as a tennis fan. Like that was like an epic weekend of tennis.
All right. All right.
And then just before we get to the female athlete conference, one of the things we have to cover because we had an emergency episode about this is World Boxing, which used to be the International Boxing Union, which has been disbanded. So World Boxing came in after the Olympics. The IOC was in charge of boxing during the Olympics, but World Boxing has introduced it's actually sex screening, not sex testing. And actually, what World Athletics is doing is sex screening. Right? They're screening for a chromosome and then they're going to do more invasive testing. That's right, it's invasive. Um, but what was so upsetting about their announcement, and World Boxing did not need to do this, and they did apologize, was they named Aman Khalif. Why? You didn't need to name her.
No.
And I like to like boxing's credit, I think everybody is getting I actually don't know that it's sex screening. It might actually just be screening because they talk about age, sex, and I can't remember if it was hormones, but there's one other factor that they include. So they might be screening everybody, but they didn't need to call out any athletes by name ever.
No, horrifically inappropriate. I will say, yeah, if they are screening the men as well, that actually does make me feel slightly better about it because, again, like at minimum, if you're going to do any kind of testing that involves any kind of DNA collection and you are going to have records of that, I think it's only fair that men also are subject to that testing. Like, whether or not the results for them really matter in like the context of what's going to be allowed or what's not or whatever, like I just think, if you're gonna test women, you have to test the men as well. Like that's just if you're gonna have those records stored somewhere, everyone should have to be in the pool of things that can get leaked and stolen and whatever. Which sounds weird, but poor Sasha. I'm making her laugh too much and now she's dying. I apologize.
So,
Okay,
shall we?
shall
Shall
we?
we female athlete conference?
Okay, yes, and I'm going to do my best to not be bitter as we talk through this because I'm so sad that I was not there. Next year, like,
2 years from now. It's only every other year.
oh,
So you
okay,
can go next year, but no one will be there.
just me alone in Boston. Just, hmm.
Hello? Anybody? Is anybody here?
Does anyone want to talk about women's sports?
There is actually a conference in Brisbane, Australia on women's sports that you might need to come to. Uh,
Oh,
but anyways, we'll focus on the one that I was at. So I actually was asked, connected with, I went to OFSA on Saturday after the female athlete conference, which is probably why I sound the way I do. The Ontario High School Track and Field Championships. And like, someone was like, hey, where have you been? And they were like, well, what would you share with athletes? And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what a great question. So I tried to put together my like 5 highlights, and I mean, there's way more than five, but 5 highlights as it relates to this podcast. And the first one was all about knowledge translation. And I was just like, oh my gosh, so powerful, right? Like, there is so much research out there. It's overwhelming as a researcher to actually try to keep up with it. And then it becomes even more overwhelming of like, how do I make this available to everybody? Anyways, can't say enough about the authors that they included. I actually got to basically go to this book event twice because they did a book event Wednesday night and then they had it as an official panel within the conference on the Friday. So Christine Yu, who wrote Up to Speed, was on the panel. Katie Steele, who's a co-author in The Price She Pays. The Price She Pays is all about female athlete mental health in the NCAA system. It's a awesome book. We should totally have Katie on here to talk about like strategies for like athletes to manage academics, athletics, and like excel at both. And to actually like hold those two things and say, at some point in my life, I actually can't balance them, and that's okay, which is why I respect Katie so much. Um, Letitia Brown wrote a book called Say Her Name. She is at NC Chapel Hill and, brings a really strong Black woman perspective about, the challenges that Black female athletes in particular face in sport and how they're spoken about. Angel Reese just like comes to mind, and the way the people often speak about her, it's awful, horrible, and we like white athletes, we like put on platitudes and we let them get away with things, but like it's just Angel Reese just out there. Like you are on a pedestal to me. You are amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. Love watching you play basketball. Um, Maggie Mertens, sorry, wrote Better, Farther, Faster. I'm laughing. So I packed in a backpack and I was like, nothing else. I'm bringing one carry-on. I've got my like passport in a crossbody bag. And she's like, "You're not going to buy my book?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to buy it digitally, but like, I don't want to carry your book home." And she didn't know me at first. And she was like, "That's quite rude." And then as the week went on, she was like, "Okay, you actually are a hilarious human. You will be in Seattle at some point. We are now friends. I will sign your book when you come." But telling the story and the history of women's sport through running, running is and was the most accessible sport for women. And there really is such a history in there. So, anyways, I'm super excited to start her book tomorrow. And then Lauren Fleshman was there, not Wednesday night, sorry, but Friday, and she wrote Good for a Girl. If you have a daughter, if you work with girls, this is a just must read for my former teammate. And then Wednesday night, it was super cool. Frankie, I'm not going to try to say their last name, but they wrote a book called Hail Mary, which is about the history of flag football. And their question
Cool.
to the authors was just incredible. I did actually, so Frankie asks their first question, and I was like, way to start with an easy one, because the authors are like up on stage, like,
That's how you know you've kicked off a panel good when everyone just looks absolutely like terrified about the first question.
terrified. They were terrified. Anyways, always great conversation. I love how they played off of each other. These books are so important. There's so many other books that are important, like the ones that you've written, Molly, like Misha's Sprinting Through Setbacks, like Stevie's, which is coming out, um, Vanessa's in the Mirror Diaries. Like, there's just so many important books out there. And like, what I loved about the panel was they lifted each other up. And so,
Love that.
yeah, actually, someone at the conference said, I can't remember who the quote is from, but there's a special place in hell for women who don't lift other women up.
Yep. 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 Oh, I love that. And I think you're spot on with like the knowledge translation. And I mean, that's a huge part of like why we're doing this podcast. It's a huge part of, the project that has not yet been announced that we're working on with a couple of our amazing friends. Um, it's really trying to bring, okay, we have all this research, we have all these stats, we have all this information. And it shouldn't just exist in kind of obscure journals and on PubMed and not actually get put into practice. And, nor should it end up as like clickbait headlines that don't actually, uh, you know, show the extent of the work or really tell the full story. So I think this is where books like this are so important. And I mean, I say this as a journalist who also writes a lot of articles that try to, break down these very complicated topics. But yeah, the books that actually like pull in all of this stuff, so important.
Oh, and so powerful. So,
Mhm.
actually, the Friday book panel, this like totally leads into number two, was moderated by Sarah Lesko. So Sarah Lesko is the executive director and founder of a not-for-profit, what, 501c, is that how you say it in the US?
Yes.
Oh, well done. Called Bras for Girls. And it's all about bringing sports bras to girls who wouldn't have a sports bra. we talked about it this in an episode about the rally report, right? Girls that don't have access to a bra are likely to drop out of sport. And Sarah's numbers were like alarming in the number of girls that cannot play sport and don't want to play sport because they don't have access to a sports bra. And more importantly, and actually, Molly, have you ever measured yourself to order a sports bra correctly?
I have been not a major issue for me, let's be totally honest here, but I've been measured for a bra a couple times. I have yet to find a bra that's actually comfortable, if I'm being completely honest,
Nice.
regardless of how many times I've been measured. But yes, it's funny. I literally had just done an article. Got off the phone with an expert for an article on sports bras, and I had a bra fitting that day, completely happenstance. So it was a very funny conversation. Um, but I'm 37. And that was the first time I've gotten like my bra size figured out. And I mean, sports bras, oh my God, when you're talking about buying them, like most sports bras are not, 34D or I say that as though I'm a 34D. I'm like very casually dropping that. I'm not. But they're not labeled like that, right? They're like extra small, small, medium, large, extra, and like, what does it mean? What does that mean?
Light support, medium support, like full. So totally. But going back to what you said earlier about the bet, like the sats, if you wear a sports bra, right? Shalea Kip did some of this research and like limited sample size, but like just anecdotally, if you're wearing a bra that's too tight, it's or oh my gosh, Sabrina, the black trail runner in the UK, did you see what she posted last week?
No.
Oh my God, her bra removed all, like she had no skin left. Like it was just, oh my gosh.
Well, and that's like those cheap sports bras that have like that mesh inside. If you're wearing that for like hours of just like slight chafe, yeah, you're just like it's sandpaper.
Well, I'm like, what bra am I wearing? I'm actually wearing a bra inside out. I'm wearing a sports bra inside out because like here's the elastic. Like, why do I want sticky elastic against my skin? Like, how is that good for me? Okay, so in Australia, we need to order this bra for you. I need to order myself more of them. LSKD or Loose Kid. There's no like seam. There's no
Ooh.
but it like still again there's not much to hold but like still holds the things in place. But I think like going back to Sarah's point, and Katie Rizzo, Dr. Katie Rizzo was on that. I'm blanking on the other two, which is terrible, but they were all talking about like we're not taught how to wear a sports bra. And then like you really want, all right, who said it? One of them said like the bits, right? Like boys get compression tights to hold their bits in place, and it's considered a piece of equipment. And so like we actually need to have sports bras considered as equipment and not as apparel. So I may be in talks, like, because I don't have enough work on my plate, like, you know, but imagine there was an IOC consensus statement around sports bras, and all of a sudden it was a mandatory piece of equipment. And all of a sudden it is in national team kits. And then from a top down, bottom up, we make it like a conversation and normalize the necessity for a sports bra.
Well, how it's not part of just like standard school uniforms, like when you're getting, your school team uniform, how that's not an option is so weird to me. Like, and I recognize, yes, like some girls require a different fit and like whatever. But if you don't have it as part of the team kit, you're suggesting that, as you have a note in here, that it's a nice to have. It's not a
Right.
necessity, right? Like how many high school or like even like sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade girls are doing gym class or doing their team sport just in a regular bra because their parents haven't gotten them a sports bra. It doesn't occur to them that they need a sports bra.
Their parents don't know. Their parents were athletes. They don't even know a sports bra exists.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I completely agree. I love this idea of like taking it from apparel to being equipment. Like this is not a negotiable thing. Um, and demystifying it a little bit for sure is incredibly important. I think,
Well,
the tricky thing is like it's like any piece of clothing, right? Like everyone has like a slightly different need and preference and all that jazz, but we can be doing so much better.
so much better. And just like drawing attention to it. So Sarah Lesko put in for a grant to get like they basically are trying to get sports bras in hands of kids who like can't afford them. Like she is doing all of the greatest work ever. And one of the reviewers was like, "Well, there's evidence that suggests that actually you don't need a bra and you're actually better off not wearing a bra for sports." And it's like, "What?" Like you've either what you're for sure a man, like we're just gonna make some judgment calls here, but you've never been an athlete, right? And the real harm that you do when you make statements like that is real harm.
100%. Uh, yeah, I'm like, put them in a room full of running women and just let them get ripped apart.
Here are the claws. Although I've like just cut my nails because like I can break my nails on anything, and I just make
Oh,
sure.
when I tell you, when I was at this NICA New Jersey mountain bike race on the weekend, the number of teen girls that had fabulous freaking nails and like racing, they're like fully kitted out in this like awesome like, mountain bike, like baggy shorts and all that stuff. And then they have these like just fantastic nails. I love it. I loved it so much because I was like, thank God we're finally like past the point of like, oh, to be a mountain biker, you need to like, look this way or this way or this way. And frankly, I was asking for a lot of tips because I was like, I'm sorry, how do you keep those nails from breaking when you ride?
And
The answer was a lot of like full-fingered gloves.
okay,
But they're like, well, you have to get them a larger size so that the
yeah,
nails
so
can actually like fit and
yeah,
like look for the long finger, like ones that actually have like longer fingers so the nails can actually fit in. And they do admit that, it takes work and sometimes the nails break off in the gloves. So like it's not always perfect, but it was like I loved seeing that because that was just showcasing that like you can wear whatever the hell you want and you are still a total badass athlete and like I love that.
I'm laughing. I'm like, I'm gonna make the assumption. I'm making an assumption because I feel like we're very much the same human. I'm like, we need to take our show on the road and go get manicures and like document the experience of like, oh, this is lovely.
Every time I do it, like which is very rare, but I'm always like I'm gonna stick to this. This is great. I love
Oh, you're
feeling
ahead of me
like
then. Okay.
I love it. No, I love it and I cannot for the life of me commit to making that a reality in my everyday life. It just doesn't work.
We
But
need to make time to do this though. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think the
we need
key is
to
the
take.
making time. Yes. Okay, okay. So sports bras, a must. Love that. Love that. Okay, what's this acronym we have up next?
I mean, it's shocking as it comes from the world of sports, but coach. So I went to the student athlete mental health session. So there's some great work that's going to be coming out of the mental health and physical activities research lab where I work, where they're doing a lot of work around student mental health for athletes. And I heard this that like so you're coaching. We'll put this in the show notes. Um, I th we were allowed to take pictures, so I'm allowed to share it. I will find the author so that we can tag to the people that actually came up with it, whose names I cannot remember. But coach. So think about an athlete's having a challenging time. There's some conflict on the team, and you've got to have a conversation with the athlete. I, for one, and probably like many people in this world, I'm not a big fan of conflict.
Nope.
Don't really know how to handle it. Not really the best at dealing with it. No, it's really important though to like meet it head on. And I'm always looking for tools so I can do a better job at this. And so coach. So if you're coaching, you can use this acronym coach. And so for C, which I'm sure you love, is this idea of connecting with the person, right? And it's like, let me just like put an asterisk right here to say it can be really challenging as a coach to try to connect with all of the athletes that are in your program. Like, I'm not going at all to say that this is easy, but if and when you see someone in trouble, I think it's just like that reminder about how important it is to connect with the people in front of you, right? Warm greetings, right? Even if you've had a bad day, let go of your bad day. I did not give you a warm greeting today. Molly, I apologize.
I think you just sneezed, so it was fine. You told me my hair looked great. It was great.
Your hair does look great. Um, that idea of expressing concern by connecting with them. Uh, right? If you think about being in a spot where you know that things aren't going great for you or you're having some challenges, and somebody comes to you and they point out a challenge that you're having without connecting with you, what is the first thing you do? I don't know about you, Molly, but I just shut down.
Yep,
Like, conversation over. Like, thanks for coming out. I'm going that way now.
I'm out.
And so, oh, which is like, because people are like, well, but how do I do that? Right? Like, this is really intimidating. And it's this idea of asking open-ended questions. And when you're really stuck, just tell me more, right? It's an invitation for somebody to share more about whatever they're going through. you really want to try to avoid those like yes, no, binary closed questions, right? So just, and if they're getting the yes, if you're just getting yeses and no, can you tell me more about that? Yes, like, and then pick apart something of like what you're noticing. Um, Affirm emotion. And I think this is where a lot of us would struggle. And I know as a coach in like my early coaching career, I struggled with this, but we can't change people's feelings. Oh my gosh, actually, this is great relationship advice right here. Affirm emotions, right?
Hmm.
Right? All of a sudden, and then you can connect like, oh, okay, I understand how that might make you feel that way, right? Like affirm what you're hearing. It may not be right, but you have to affirm their feelings, right? So
100%. Yeah. Like, and it's hard to do, especially when you have emotions that conflict with that, or you
totally.
don't have the same emotion, or you don't understand why they're, upset or angry or whatever. Like it doesn't make sense to you. But like, take yourself out of it for a second, and doesn't matter how you feel about it. Doesn't matter how you think you'd feel about it in their shoes. They're feeling this way. Done. That's it. That is a fact.
Okay, so I'm laughing at myself about a moment earlier. Coaches, you will also have the moment to be like, how on earth do you have that perspective, athlete? Just how is that possible? That's their reality. And you actually can't change their reality. Mel Robbins, let them, right? Let me, right? Offer your perspective, right? If other athletes have come to you and shared their perspective and it's part of the conversation, share that perspective, not to discount the person who's in front of you right now, but just to also offer them a different perspective. But also to the coaches out there that are like, how is this possible that this person is thinking that? That is a totally normal reaction. And then
100%.
I love this second C, right? Might be my favorite word of 2025, collaborate, right? It's not about you as a coach fixing it. It's not about the athlete fixing it. It's about how do we come together to make this better? What do I need to do for you to help you through this? What do we need to do to bring the team together, right? Shared goals, right? As a team, our goal is to perform at the best of our ability. So, how do we help everybody do that? And then the H is for hop around, and you're like, well, that doesn't really make sense. But it's this idea of like what you think is, the collaborative solution that you're working towards. It's dynamic. It's not static. It might have to change. Things change, everything changes. And so this just ability to like hop around, move around, see things differently, and like be in the moment, in the present as things change.
Hmm. And I love, the note on here too is with hop around, it's also coming back to the original, like the connecting, the opening up, the affirming emotion, and the collaborating. Like you don't necessarily go in that exact order and like boom, you're done. Like, okay, we've collaborated, check, done. It might be that you collaborate and then you're going to have to come back to opening up, asking another question. You might need to affirm a different emotion after you've come up with a collaborative thing. There might be a different connection you need to make with someone else as you bring them in. And these strategies, like, are not necessarily going to be continually used in that exact order. I do think connecting is probably like our biggest like starting point. Although, you know what? Affirming emotion might even be like where you're starting some days.
So you can connect, right? Like totally. Yeah. And it's just seeing the person in front of you. My linear brain is like, no, I can't just go through the steps 1 to 5 every time.
Yeah, it's much more stressful when you have to think about which one to go with. But I think these are all just like generally good, like life life communication skills that yes do not need to be in this exact order. But yeah, sometimes it's easier to think about them in a linear fashion. But sadly, life is less than perfectly straightforward. So
And there's our daily dose of relationship advice as well. You can use coach in your relationships as well to repair after a disagreement. And disagreements are also totally normal.
yep.
Um, and I think this actually blends like really well into the next one. This idea of the superwoman complex. So for some context, I sent Molly a super cryptic email. And it basically was like, hey, Molly, pick this up at the conference. It's okay to drop the crown and the cape because they can be heavy. Here's the superwoman complex. And I was like, I'll probably need to give you more information
I
because,
was like,
like,
question mark.
but it's this idea of like, we as women, and this was framed in like Black women in particular, and if we think about the historical injustices to Black women, and particularly how we've perceived Black women in the last 5 years, and Black female athletes in particular, it's this idea of like, no matter what you do and no matter what moment in your life, you actually need to be in your superwoman power pose, like wearing the cape and having your crown on, crane, your cane. I just need a cane right now. And having your crown on, but like that it's okay to put it down. And so they gave this like as I say this, people are like, "Oh yeah, okay, I get this." Um, it's this idea that we are expected, and again, I really want to say this is framed for Black women and Black female athletes. Like, think of Serena Williams. Like, here we go, right? You're always expected to project an image of strength and resilience, right? You're always expected to suppress your emotions, especially with vulnerability, to maintain a stoic exterior. You avoid seeking help or admitting vulnerability, fearing it will be seen as a weakness. You have this intense motivation to succeed despite limited resources, often driven by a desire to prove themselves and to overcome systemic barriers.
Yeah, no problem there. Definitely super easy. Anyone can do that. Yeah, very simple. Ugh.
And then the last one is to prioritize the lives of others before our own lives.
Oh my gosh, this is coming at such a, it's so funny whenever we have these topics that always seem to come at like a perfect time where there's so many interconnected moments. I was just interviewing the founder of Color the Trails, which is a Canadian organization. Judy, amazing. I love her so much.
Oh gosh.
Judy Kazuyama. And she and I were talking about almost this exact thing. And we were talking about to be a Black content creator in the outdoor space means you are constantly held to this different standard where you have to be political, you have to be an advocate, you have to be an activist. There is no option to just create content. Um,
Oh, and on top of all that, when people send you questions, you are required to answer them regardless of how they send them to you and free of charge.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, also while creating great content.
Yes.
Yeah. Side note, also doing the actual, yeah, the content creation thing too. And it was such an eye-opening, fantastic conversation. I'm so excited. It's all part of a story I'm doing for Canadian Running Magazine in their September issue on the rise of the running influencers and the pros and the cons of what that means for running culture. And I'm so excited for that. But yeah, like all of this echoes exactly what she was talking about. It's so, so important. Yeah, especially for those in marginalized communities, marginalized bodies, especially Black women. You're exactly right. Like, but it's so hard because the problem is to drop the superhero cape and crown not only means like you're asking for help or like not able to do something, but that can also be you know, economically not feasible or viable, right? Like it's like we can say this is a problem, but it's a problem that at the moment doesn't necessarily have a great solution to it, especially in sport.
Absolutely. And that's people's livelihoods. And so, I guess it's just like always recognizing the person in front of you and the struggles that they might have. And if you can hold their cape for them for that minute so that you can let them take that breath, like I think we owe that to the world.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think this is a great takeaway for coaches, anyone who works with, yeah, Black women athletes and girls. Um,
Yeah.
and just trying to kind of like, yeah, say it's okay to take the beat and yeah, hang up the cape momentarily. Um,
Just solved one of Sasha Golish's other tangential challenges that she's having. So, Molly, thank you once again for my therapy session.
I try. I try. I think this is just group therapy on a in a podcast format. And I know we are running tight on time, but the last point you have here is early specialization. It's so funny because you're linking to the Aspen Institute's Project Play checklists for parents. They have them for all different age ranges now. I had put it on my notes of things we needed to talk about. This is a fantastic free resource that parents, coaches can download and, just so, so good in terms of advice for parents who are presented with so much, also parents are getting the societal pressure to specialize early, to put their kids in extra coaching and training and all this stuff. And it's not necessarily going to benefit their kids as athletes.
And as people. And I thought what was like really special about what Project Play, it's the International Day of Play as we're recording, right? It's Wednesday, June 11th, right? The UN. So right to play, right? The UN made play a human right. But Project Play has these checklists for kids that aren't playing sport right now. So it doesn't just focus on the kid that's already playing. And so it's if your kid wants to play, how to like not basically not over pressure them or not over specialize them that they like burn out. And you like listen, these checklists are actually like good check-ins for anybody who's like does this as a hobby well. So I've got open the 13 to 17-year-olds who play sport already and structured organized sport. Why, right? Have you asked your kid why they play sport? Have you checked in with yourself lately to ask, like, why do you do this? And with my knee, I check in with myself all the time about why I run. Um, and it's been really positive in terms of like, well, what are the bad habits that I have, right? And maybe what are those elements of perfectionism that I just need to be aware of so that I don't go down those like perfectionism like leads to injury, right? Like for sure, right? Like that's quite literally like over like, oh, I have to complete this training. I have to do the maximum volume because like that's my element of perfectionism. Um, why does my kid play sport? Right? Like, why are they there? Are they there to be the best version of themselves? If they tell you they're there to win, I think that should set some alarm bells off for you as a parent, mostly because, like, it's just not realistic. Like, don't, by no means, don't take that away from them, but make sure that there's something else, right? Like, journey, process, and outcome, right? Like, you have to have journey and process, and you can have outcome. So don't take away that mentality, but also just be aware that like if your kid is only in it to win, you like that's like red flag. It's probably yellow flag on the play, verging on red flag on the play of like things that you might want to be aware of. Anything else on your this list that caught you?
No, I think you hit kind of all of my personal faves right there.
Well, and I think for me the other one is how do you check in with your kid to ask them how they want you as a parent or guardian involved in their sport? And I
Mhm.
think that's a really big and missing piece of the conversation. You can use the coach acronym, right? Connect with your kid, right? Like affirm their emotions. You just remember that there's a power differential here. Your kid's going to have you as a parent or guardian on a pedestal, and they may not be comfortable actually talking to you about the pressure that you might be putting on them. And it's your job as a parent to really then look for the cues outside of that conversation in terms of
Mhm.
affirming their emotions and connecting with them to be like, this is what I'm noticing. And I think I might be putting too much pressure on you because I've seen this. How can I stop? And I mean, like big stop sign, red sign, parents, you have to stop doing whatever you're doing if that's adding pressure to them.
100%. Yeah. And I would say like maybe I do have like one not criticism, but like a slight critique of the checklist. And that is this really, like, I think the first two questions are absolutely super important. I do have a slight issue with, like, it's a lot of, like, the parent being heavily involved with the coaches. And I think this could lead to a lot of, like, parents really pushing coaches. And, when you're in the club level and you're paying for the sport, you're paying for the team, I think that's fine. But I do think it's always important to just remember with school sports, a lot of these coaches, like, are volunteers. They're well-intentioned,
Yes.
like, and it is hard. Like they are trying to do so much. And I think what I worry about whenever we're kind of like saying, oh, parents should be checking on like if coaches are trained in injury prevention and management. Yes, that's an important thing. But we may end up with no coaches.
That was and that was highlighted over and over and over again at the female athlete conference, right? Like really respecting coaches for where they're at. So Molly, such an important point. Thank you.
And like the other point with that too is like this one's for teens, right? This is for ages 13 to 17. I think at that age, you also as a parent want to be pushing your teen to be able to communicate with their coach
Totally.
themselves. So maybe these are actually more like, you know, can your athlete have some of these conversations? Does your athlete know this? Can your athlete ask the coach about this? And really encouraging that because that's a communication skill that will take them, well into like through life. Like that's a like this is one of the life lessons you can learn. This is the leadership skill from sport that we're talking about. It is not mom calling the coach and asking a question. It is the athlete being able to knock on the coach's door and ask a question. So there we go. That's my last soapbox for the day.
You're squeaky clean. You've been on many soapboxes today.
So many soapboxes. At some point, I'm gonna have to buy myself an actual soapbox that I can just get up on, whether I'm like at talk, like have it next to me at talks. How good would that be?
The strong girl,
The
the
strong girl
oh,
soapbox.
oh, strong girl. Yes, this is just a like wholehearted yes, and like it's also like other people can get up on the strong girl soapbox
Exactly.
and share like their. Well, you're entitled to an opinion until it comes out of your mouth, and then you got to support it with fact, says Adam Grant. But you can get up on the soapbox.
Yeah. Okay, we're making that. We're making that for our next event for sure. Awesome. All right. Anything else to add, or should we wrap there?
I mean, I think we should wrap there.
I
This
think we
was
should wrap there. This was so much fun. As always, do us a favor, subscribe, rate, review, all of the things. Let us know if you have any questions, guest ideas, etc. We'd love to hear from you. I'm over at Molly J. Herford. Sasha is at Escalish Runs. You can find us also at yellow underscore running underscore shoes and at Strong Girl Publishing. All right, with that, we'll let you go. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Thanks so much for tuning into the Strong Girl Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely head over to wherever you listen to podcasts and rate, review, and of course, subscribe so you never miss another episode. And head over to stronggirlpublishing.com to check out all of the books by Strong Girl Publishing's authors, including Molly Herford, Misha Powell, and so many more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.